Righto, g'day money miners. Welcome to another week of bloody gold price. Gold price. It's flying like a bloody Brooks Airways King Air at the moment. She is bloody humming. What, she cracked 2,200, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it closed over 2,200. Keen to see if the gold miners can make some money now.
Yeah, mate. JD, great to have you back as always,
Good
mate.
to be back, mate.
Nothing better than JD in the flesh. And on the
It's
back,
good flesh too, mate. He just took his shirt off. It's
what a rig.
got a rig on him.
Unbelievable
Make me
rig.
blush, boys.
Running a
Mate.
marathon this weekend, mate.
Yeah, go bloody go.
Don't hold me to it.
Stand over the bridge and give him a cheer on, mate. Right, on the back of this gold price as well, good old Spartan. In the news a lot. Are we on a bit of a promo tour here, Spartan?
What's the read through, Matty?
What is the read-through? There is always a read-through.
We're going to speculate that.
We are reading into it.
We sure are.
All this shit doesn't happen by accident. Old Capricorn copped a bit of Capricorn got wet.
They did.
This is not Capricorn copper we're talking about. Capricorn gold on the other side.
Oh, it must be something with Capricorn. If you got
Something about
Capricorn in your name, chuck a bloody roof over your head, I think.
Lots of rainfall events.
Yeah. What else? Bloody Delta double farm in agreement with a couple of peers, and copper market getting a bit wild in China, JD.
Yeah, going to touch on what's going on in the world of treatment charges. It's pretty interesting to see what's going on there, and we're going to talk about Lake Resources raising new equity at a
39% discount.
39% discount. Delta.
Got to get her away. Right, gold price,
Mate,
she's ripping and tearing.
I reckon we've got to talk about it. We've had a few YouTubers comment on our recent videos. You've got to talk about the gold price. You've got to talk about the gold price. And it's been on a real tear lately, punching all-time highs in US dollars of, like 2,200, like you said, Matty. It's really interesting that the record prices, I think, are yet to really translate into valuations of undeveloped ounces for the most part. I think producers are catching a bid, and you can see them elevate. I mean, like Northern Star's $14 again, Capricorn $5, which is a few days of all-time highs there. West Gold $2.50, up 250% in just 15 months for them as a producer with a lot of talk to the price. But on the junior side, I don't think we've really seen the undeveloped ounces respond, really at all yet, unless you're a shiny new discovery. But I think we should do some work in the future to just take a look at which companies have the most talk to the gold price right now, and I reckon we should do some more work on that.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. It tends to flow down from the top, and it makes a whole lot more sense because the capital markets aren't massively open to the junior end of town, and they are much more hand to mouth, relying on tapping capital markets for new equity. But these guys, Westgold, you mentioned, they're newly unhedged. They're a high-cost producer. They're one of the companies that sort of comes to mind that would really cop a benefit from a higher gold price.
And then this is on the back of the media speculation last week about Ramelius and Karora potentially tying the knot. But we haven't heard any more on that.
No, not out of Holt yet, Ramelius, I don't believe so. Yeah, but I mean, one of the undeveloped companies, one of the companies that has an undeveloped project that has kind of caught a bid in recent times is Spartan, which
probably the biggest one on the radar of next potential projects on the smaller end if you take out De Grey and bloody everything, but all the ones that have been around for a while. But this is getting the attention.
Bit of a developer with an asterisk, given that they've got the mill,
the latent infrastructure already.
And ding, 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 I've got a couple of these ones, so I'll let you boys get into it.
I'm not sure if you guys caught this one, but the big fella, Simon Lawson.
Which one? There's been which Simon Lawson article are we talking about?
He's got the feature story inside the business section today of the West Australian, and I must admit I wasn't sure if I was reading a stockhead column inside the Australian or if this was actually an article in the West.
Have a look at the big fella, mate. There you go. God, it's frigging all over the league. He's got a few articles out today.
Look at this byline: how Spartan boss took on the world and won. I mean, my favourite part of the article was the quotes from Mr. Lawson name dropping both Mark Clark and Zeppi of Ramelius as people that he sought insight from in recent times.
Name dropping, something we're going to touch on later on with Lake Resources as well.
Looking great photo. You notice anything in the background there, boys, in that pit?
That's the Gilby's pit, right?
Yeah, I'd assume so. Yeah. And what stands out to you straight away?
It looks pretty dry, mate.
It looks like it's. There is potential for dust to come out of that.
If only there was solutions for that.
Mate,
Matty.
that pit needs to get wet. It needs to bloody dust suppression is part of what GetWet is all about.
Why do you need to suppress dust, Matty?
Well, mate, you do not want a lawsuit for dust-related health issues coming to your doorstep, mate.
Yeah.
You got to keep the dust out of the lungs. They're all smoking darts up there anyway. Well, they're all vaping now anyway. But mate, you got to keep the dust out. Dust suppression is one of the most important things on a mine site.
Investors have a keen eye on it as well, mate.
Mate, and most of GetWet's inquiries are about water solutions for dust. And that was before we started ripping the GetWet ads. So you can imagine the fucking phone would be off the hook at the moment for Matt.hall. Be bloody check, mate. You want to know who's getting wet? Linetown.
So Kathleen Valley.
We've got a bloody video of a double GetWet bladder roll out here, mate.
The giant goon bag.
Daisy chain goon bag water storage solution is up at bloody Kathleen Valley now. Beautiful piece of kit. They can set it up quicker than you can say GetWet.
How does this suppress dust? I don't quite understand.
Well, that's the storage centre for all the water that the water carts go to. You store shitloads of it, and that's what fills up the water cart, and you just keep filling her up. Much easier, much quicker than chucking a hard-sided tank in. Just clear a pad, flatten her out, and the GetWet bladder will be on your site in no time.
You can move them around when you want, if you're done in that sort of
location.
location.
Mate, just chuck it. If you need to get wet somewhere else, just bloody take her on, and 20-year life, he reckons. Matt.hall, bloody unreal. Because I quoted 400 litres a second last ad rip for the flow rate for the bladder can pump the water into the water carts. But holy snapping duck shit, boys, I've been told they can get up to 600 litres a second.
You undersold him, mate.
Jesus Christ. Oh, mate, as I said, stay out of the courts. Don't get a lawsuit related to dust-related health issues.
I imagine it makes your equipment, seize up too much dust, and it's just...
just clogs the filters, mate. Just take action and get wet. Give Matt.hall a call. Anyway, let's get back to the gold. I just sorry to break the story up, but I just saw that dry pit and just I want to help the industry. So
it's only natural.
When I see this bulk amount of articles coming out about Spartan at the moment, this is only one of many. What's going on here?
That's the question, mate. There's always a read through. And why would Spartan be on the promotional tour right now? Why are they getting a feature article in the West, which doesn't say sponsored, but it's gosh, it reads pretty promotional. The default response is cash, right? And but Spartan, they have $39 million in the bank at 31 December, thanks to a top up in November. So what are the other possibilities if they're not come raise? Well, it could still be cash. Maybe they look to be opportunistic, given the share price has really re-rated recently. They could become bulletproof, raise enough for an exploration decline if they really wanted to.
They could do a big raise. I know they haven't got FID for the restart of Dalgaranga yet, but do a big 2 trans raise to fund the equity portion of restarting that.
Yeah, I doubt you'd want to talk about a restart just yet.
Nah. But because that restart capex is about 120 million on T-Max note, so there's a bit to raise there if they do need it, because they need the crusher, secondary crusher, need a pace plan, a cut back.
Yep.
So a bit to do there, but I don't think that'd happen before FID.
Yep. Another possibility is they could just be wanting some institutional recognition. They've just been added to the All Ords index, and they could be on a tour to get recognition from the index huggers out there. Maybe they simply want to make sure that they are the shiny new discovery story in this gold bull market. But there's a third possibility, and that's that there could be a potential deal on the cards, and they want to make sure they are valued as fully as possible before any definitive merge ratio or offer is agreed at the board level. So look, I thought it could be an interesting exercise if we indulge that possibility for a moment and ask the question, if there was a deal in the works for Spartan, who could or should it be with?
How about we go through it?
Yep.
Yeah, there's plenty of potential players here, and they've been sniffing around for a while before we first started it. But no, they've just been in the scene for a while. But a lot's changed with each company. But because the big overhang with Spartan is the major shareholders.
They
getting
would have
them on board.
They'd have to agree to a deal. Yeah.
Tembo's 18%, Delphi 15%. Who knows? They might script.
Both would be. Tembo would be a natural seller at the right price. They're a private equity group. They've already made their multiple on money that they would would have wanted to. I'm sure they'd do a deal at the right price if they got enough of an uplift.
If they like the script
Yeah,
that's getting offered as well.
Delphi, who knows, mate? You know what I think of those guys.
Right, so who would you say the obvious contender is today in the market right now?
I think, like, you know, if we asked this question before last week, the obvious contender would have been Ramelius, right? I mean, you see Lawson name dropping Zeppi in the article. They've got a nearby mill themselves, and with all the various mines trucking dirt, you know, there are probably some synergies that could be realised there. But it sounds like they're doing a deal with Karora instead, which we discussed on Thursday, and I can't imagine them having too much near-term deal appetite, which would result in them doing anything with Spartan if they're doing something with Karora. Westgold, they also have nearby operations with synergies that could be realised. Their scrip has rallied too in recent times, and I'm sure they'd be keen to use that scrip, you know, in a deal in times like this. Whether or not the Spartan board would be willing to accept that scrip is another question.
I think, and they've been sort of the two obvious ones from the start.
Yep.
Nothing's really changed there, except for last week it did change with the Ramelius Karora speculation.
That's right, and those two sort of fought it out for Musgrave. Ramelius coming out the ultimate acquirer in that case.
The other thing that's obviously changed is that Spartan's gotten a whole lot more expensive than when we first speculated.
Absolutely,
Yeah, I remember when we were talking about it and we were thinking that's when they were in the high 30s, low 40s. We're thinking, oh, look, it's probably 60 cents to take it out. But now they're trading at 64 cents plus on top of the bucks they raised as well. So,
yeah.
Granted that their stock has, Westgold in particular, has appreciated quite a bit if scrip were to be a component.
Yeah.
So let's rattle through the rest of the candidates. And look, Belview these guys have a recent reputation of developing and bringing online an underground gold mine. Would they be keen to get another growth project? I think the answer is yes, but they'd want their own script to re-rate as a producer per the Lassonde curve before they would do such a deal, I would imagine.
Yeah, that'd be. I guess it's two operations that need cash then, because they're still Bellevue are still ramping up to that cash printing stage, but it's still a journey to get there.
Yeah, they'd want to be pretty sure that they'll pass the hurdle beforehand. You're right. So what about Capricorn? They're another one that you saw Mr. Lawson quote in the feature in the West there. Their expertise is bulk tonnage, open pits. Clarkey mined Dalgaranga under Equigold back in the day, so there's a bit of a connection there. But with Mount Gibson being the focus for them right now, I doubt they'd do this deal.
Yeah, and it'll depend on how much of a role that Gilby's pit is going to play. As we know that they're going to be needing a good chunk of dirt to get that mill up to whatever tonnage they're going to run it at, 1.7 to 2.5.
Yeah, and they're the best at optimising stuff, but how much can you really optimise things when you've already sunk all the capex? You can't really tweak too much there.
The MO's very much been to buy, look at the Mount Gibson acquisition, look at how they came into the company to start with to get undeveloped, cheap assets.
Yep.
And this is not.
Yeah. So moving through the list there, Genesis, so they've got underground capability with Gwalia and Ulysses now. So, could they have interest? Remember, they're supposed to be releasing their 5-year outlook this month about how they're going to get to 300,000 ounces per annum. I wouldn't discount this entirely, but
and they've got the open pit experience.
They do.
Rail's an open pit man. So,
totally. Yeah.
That'd probably complement it there.
Yep.
Yeah, because there's links there as well. So because you got Simon Lawson and Genesis's GM at Gwalia, Matt Nixon, they share directorships at Labyrinth Resources, and Genesis are also a shareholder of Labyrinth. So there's a relationship there.
Yep.
Their paper's looking pretty good as well, $1.90.
Yep. Do you want to rattle off the red ones?
I could keep it rolling, mate. Yeah, bloody on me. I've been distracted, and I had to go see Q for a bar me because we've got some guests coming in this up. Silver Lake, they're obviously tied up with the Red 5 merger, but the question is, did they actually think of taking over Spartan and using their cash to fund the restart of Dalgaranga instead of going down this Red 5 way? Yeah. I think it's like far out. It would have been something to consider.
Yeah, if you had picked it up at 40 cents, and that might have been a better deal, but who knows?
Who knows?
I can't imagine it didn't come up in conversation.
It's got just as much synergies as the Red 5 merger is, i.e. none. Northern Star, I don't think Dalgaranga doesn't really fit the scale for Northern Star. I don't think. Like if you think of what their their smaller operations, even though everything's like Carasoo Dam and Jundee, they pump out about 250 to 300,000 ounces each a year, respectively. So Dalgaranga, they'll be pushing to probably get 150. So not really the size. Regis, they've got that net debt position of 145 mil because they've still got that 300 mil facility bullet payment due June next year. So and they'll be focusing on trying to get McPhillips going. So
yeah, they've already got a shiny development story.
Yeah, so I don't think they look like a party. Orabanda's an interesting one, I think.
You find it interesting. I find it unlikely. But
very unlikely. But mergers have happened in weird and wonderful ways to get scale. So because it'd have to be a merger of some sort. No synergies because they're like bloody 600 Ks apart. Draw card of getting Luke Cray on board as an underground mining specialist. Scale that them to sort of 250 to 300,000 ounces if you combine Dalgaranga, Riverina and Sand King. Wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility. But Hawke's Point with 40%, major shareholder, they would have the say.
Yeah, and being a merger in that hypothetical scenario, I think it'd be tough to win over Tembo and Deutsche Balaton as well.
Yeah, imagine the
two
London private equity groups on the same
Davyhurst. Be a tough one to sell.
How about Gold Road, right? So it was rumoured they were hungry to do a deal with Regis last year with a pitch that their cash flow could fund McPhillips, and then you've got the 20% interest in De Grey. So Gold Road's clearly interested in using their cash in undeveloped opportunities. I reckon we would have seen them buying shares by now, though, similar to what they did with De Grey if they wanted Spartan. So, but I wouldn't rule it out. And fellas, there's a pretty left field company I want to throw into the mix, which we had a spitball about this morning. Another gold miner. Develop.
Oh, not a gold miner.
They're Develop are pretty down in the dumps, right? Woodlawn's paused until prices are higher. Pioneer Dome must be a similar story given the lithium carnage we've seen lately.
You can nearly put a line through Pioneer Dome for a while.
With battery metals in the sin bin, do you think Bill would ever pivot a little and go back to his roots with underground gold mining?
He's obviously being very focused on that. We're future-facing metals. That is what this business is. But the landscape has significantly changed, and as a duty to shareholders, you have to do what's in their best interest. And if pivoting away from future-facing metals only is good for shareholders, I can't see why he wouldn't do it.
Well, you could argue what is good for shareholders is sometimes being a bit contrarian. You know what I mean? You don't want to follow the trend necessarily. You kind of want to
take the long view,
go against it. And then what's good for shareholders? Well, some shareholders have bought with the expectation that this is a battery metals vehicle, and that might not be in the best interest of shareholders.
But what if Pioneer Dome never gets developed?
Yeah, that makes a good question. I don't know the answer to that one. But just imagine it. Let's entertain the thought for a moment. We know, Bill created a monster gold mining company, as a result of his underground gold mining expertise in Northern Star, and so if you just entertain the thought for a moment, look at the relative sizes of the two companies. Spartan fully diluted market cap 675 million, Develop fully diluted market cap 685 million there. So if you were mulling over the merit of a merger right now, you'd be wanting to make sure yours is the bigger company in that equation. Look, obviously you worked with Simon Lawson at Paulson's back in the day, which was Bill Beeman and Northern Star's kind of first operation. So there's a link there, but it's a bit of a stretch. But anyway, I thought it'd just be a real left field idea to pop out there.
It's a bloody good idea, I think, in terms of Bill brings the underground mining capability that slots straight into Never. So that's obviously good for Bill, but if it's a merger, it'll all be under one house. But what that looks like is who's got the brand? Like, you still got the Developed Mining Services division. Like, does that all come in? Like, do they just have to? Does Spartan have to be? Do they have to take over Spartan to keep the develop and the mining services and everything like that, it does get a bit.
I don't know. I'd say there's probably a 1% probability this deal has actually been considered by anyone seriously, but it's a 1% I'd be willing to entertain, you know.
Could be a JV. Like, imagine if they did it as a joint venture and remained separate, and then Develop did the mining services for it and everything.
Yeah, but if from Spartan's point of view, if you were to do a JV, you'd want someone to come in to maybe do a bit of the CapEx and stuff, and that be contingent on getting them in. That's how you normally structure these things when you're the 100% owner.
Yeah, I think the play is a 100% consolidated entity run by Bill. You get the management uplift from, you know, a proven operator, and there's the merit of the deal. Would it be an easy one to sell to shareholders on both sides? The answer is definitely not. But you know, because you've got the wow factor, sometimes these things could get over the line if you wanted to. Yeah,
I'll just be interested to see how long Develop sit on what they've got, and like if copper's still on pause and still waiting, buying more copper you might be waiting longer. Who knows? And lithium, Pioneer Dome needs to be significantly higher spodumene prices to become a mine, I believe. So
the copper price really isn't that bad though. Like, everyone's complaining costs have gone up and everything, but $3.90 a pound US.
Yeah, I think once it gets over low fours, I think that's when I think I think they're coming out with news about Woodlawn either this quarter or this quarter about when that's going to be restarting. So I would imagine if it's in the fours, it'll be restarting.
Yeah.
It's whether it might swallow up an opportunity like this as well. Oh, no, I like it, Trav.
TBA, mate.
I like it.
Yeah.
Alrighty, should we talk about Capricorn, the rain event? So they copped 150 mils in recent days.
So we'll clarify again. I know we did at the start. This is Capricorn Metals, not the Capricorn Copper project that has also been pissed on with rain in the previous years.
That's right. This is the Karlawinda project up near Newman, and this is on top of the 133 mils that they'd copped in January. So they've chucked up some photos, looking pretty wet up there. They said they lost a total of 8 full days of mining this quarter. Though the plant wasn't impacted, it did mean they were treating lower grade stockpiles and delayed access to the higher grade blocks within the open pit. So now expecting 26,000 ounces as opposed to the 30-ish that we have been used to seeing from them on a quarterly basis. That's a roughly 15% hit in terms of ounces, and then you've got the flow-on effects of higher all-in sustaining cost. Expect them to come at the lower end of guidance, still at 115,000 ounces. But given what we just spoke about with the gold price, I think, you know, the revenues they're receiving could mean that earnings, it's all offsets, you know, when you're looking on a period-on-period basis. So things might not be too bad at all, like you touched on earlier there, Trav, trading over $5. Not bad at all.
Mate, it's interesting how you get the offset of reduced guidance just by the fact that gold's rallying.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mate, I'm keen to have a yarn about Delta Lithium. I saw today that they're using their cash on 2 neighbouring farm-ins with Reach and Voltaic. So, you know, they're pretty cashed up at the moment. If you remember, Delta pulled the trigger on a hefty kind of capital raising late last year, and it sees it holding $116 million of cash at the 31st of December. Now, lithium prices are in the dunny at the moment, but here we've got farm-in agreements that Delta has effectively entered into, and I find it kind of interesting. It's a bit of an interesting development to see how Delta plans on spending that cash. The deals are with Reach Resources and Voltaic Strategic Resources, who, if you look in this map here, they're represented by the yellow tenure and the pink tenure, and it's kind of that there is of the Yinathara region there. In both deals, Delta essentially pays the respective companies an upfront nominal amount of $1 million or so, and then commits to spending $3 million in the ground for 51% of the project. They manage the exploration programs. Further contributions can let Delta get up to 80% of the 2 projects there. And my interpretation of these deals is it's kind of an extension of the same strategy that we've seen from Allison already. It's just more of a land grab. He, via Delta, effectively gets control of these projects now too.
Trav, I've counted potentially $18 million. between these two projects that will go into, a lot of that will go into exploration, some for studies and everything, for mineral resources and all that. Let's say 15 million.
Is that if they exercise the right to go up to the full 80%? Okay, which they might not do.
Yeah, so that's, mate, that's around 100,000 metres of diamond and RC drilling that'll get pumped into that ground.
100 kilometres. 100
kilometres. 100 kilometres of drill holes. That's
wow.
bloody. So they're going to pepper it. I'll get the question shareholders should be asking about that number. Are K-Drill drilling those metres? That's the number one question out of this. Are K-Drill on the ticket?
Yeah. If you're doing exercising a farm in a joint venture agreement and you wanted to maximise your probability of finding bloody pegmatites that were filled with spodumene, just like
possibly gold or copper, like, as well, rare earths. Like, mate, K-Drill need to be drilling those bloody holes for them. And again, a Control F in those announcements didn't yield any K-Drill.
That's interesting
to me. So it's a bit
concerning.
It's a bit concerning, bit disappointing, because as the RC and diamond experts, I believe that they should be on these announcements as part of a conditions precedent.
We know the guys at K-Drill have actually like a good chunk of experience drilling for lithium, Matty. Yeah, I mean, some of them we can talk about, some of them we can't. But
I'd just highly recommend that Delta do take action and get K-Drill to get involved in these farm-ins, because it is something they will not regret.
I've got a question for you, Matty. What's the difference between getting K-Drill to drill it out versus not?
Downtime. Just purely from the sophistication of their equipment and the fact that Ryan O'Sullivan can intervene whenever possible to drill manually.
It's a can-do attitude.
It's just not seen anywhere else. So, mate, I would guarantee that those 100,000 metres would get done the quickest and the best quality by K-Drill.
I got word that Ryan got his cataracts chopped out on the weekend, and he now with his own vision can actually see the minerals through the ground.
Yeah, so he's one person that doesn't need a VRIFY model because he just sees it himself anyway, so it's a waste.
You can basically see 100 metres below surface now, so you essentially don't even really need to drill it. Just extend beyond 100 metres.
Yeah, it's sort of informal geophys, you'd say. Yeah, no, mate, get K-Drill to drill there. Mate, I want to bloody find out when they're on the ticket. Ring me and tell me, Delta. And farm-ins, boys. The iron ore billionaires, they don't mind a bit of farming.
Well, I mean, that's right. That story was about, Delta, which is a pseudo-Allison-controlled entity now, doing a farming deal. But I saw another one of those on Friday. It was with Fortescue. Fortescue agreed to a farming agreement with Magmatic Resources, and to be clear, this is a copper project. Yes, Fortescue.
So there you go.
They agreed to spend $14 million over 6 years to earn a 75% interest in the Mile project in New South Wales, and simultaneously bought 20% of the company in a placement to come on as a strategic investor. The share price of Magmatic has soared 95% since, which is pretty insane. This project already has a resource of 110 million tonnes at 0.3% copper, and it's 50 kilometres from North Parkes, would you believe? So Fortescue essentially get a board seat at Magmatic, and they will manage the exploration too. I found this deal interesting. I mean, Fortescue, copper, farming. Also, it was Fortescue, not Wyloo. I don't quite have a good answer for why it would be done at Fortescue and not Wyloo, but I just found it interesting. What an interesting thing to pop up.
That's fascinating, yeah.
Yeah, it could be the start of something big. Who knows?
Alrighty, on the theme of copper, let's talk about the treatment and refining charges. What's going on? They've hit their lowest point since 2010. It's a long time ago. So I'd say copper is the metal with the most unanimously positive sentiment out there. Of any you speak to, there's not that many people that are bearish about it, even though that's been the case for a long time. So these charges, what I'm talking about, the treatment and refining charges there, are what the smelter and the refiners charge the mining companies to turn the concentrate into the refined copper. And these charges are just purely dictated by demand and supply, essentially. So when there's little smelter capacity, the charges increase, and when smelters are hungry for concentrate, they drop their costs and the market sort of tightens.
That's to try and incentivise, the marginal shipment to go to that smelter.
Exactly.
So that they can continue to run at nameplate.
Exactly. So at the big end of the town, you've got mining majors like Freeport, who will actually negotiate with smelting giants like Jinchuan, and there's a good few. And obviously, you've got plenty of major miners that smelt their own product as well. But there is that capacity in China predominantly of smelters that take from the miners around the world.
But the good guys, the commodity traders, being the middlemen along the way too, mate.
The good guys very much in quotation marks there. So what's going on at the moment? You've seen all this stuff that we've spoken about in the actual mining part of the world. So Cobre Panama has had huge disruptions. Codelco have been struggling for a long time to reach production. I think they're at their lowest point in 25 years now. MMG's Las Bambas was suspended. Anglo were having problems. These are, none of this is a secret. It's been, reported quite a bit in the media. You've also got Indonesia's ban on raw copper exports, similar to what they did with nickel not too long ago, coming into effect. So Freeport will no longer be selling all their concentrate to Chinese smelters from the huge mine Grasberg. They will be building one of the world's biggest single line smelter. That's going to turn 3 million tons of concentrate into about 1 million tons of copper cathode. It's just enormous.
Jeez.
So they've put $3 billion into expanding the thing. Part of it's a JV with Mitsubishi, and then the government in Indonesia owns a big chunk of it as well. They're actually talking about extending the mining permit there in Indonesia for 20 years. And what the government wants in return for that is to go from 51% owners to 61% owners of the mine. So Freeport are very much between a rock and a hard place there, given the sunk cost that they've put in.
It's pretty wild, mate. 51 to 61%.
It's enormous.
And it's
That's
not
the
like
biggest underground mine in the world, I think. I think that is.
And it's not like you're paying, they're not paying for that.
You get the mining permit, mate.
It's there's no money. It's just it's wild. Surely that has an impact on future investment decisions.
Absolutely. It's pretty remarkable. Like I said, it's what happened in nickel, but that actually brought in a huge amount of investment in the country, and that was executed relatively well from an Indonesian government's perspective. But exactly like you touched on there, Trav, who's to know what the long-term ramifications are of companies wanting to come in and develop from the ground up. Grasberg has a huge amount of sunk capex, so Freeport don't have an awful lot of negotiating power. They rely on the cash flow from this asset. So it's an interesting one to sort of look and see where the majors and where other companies are going to go and explore in future. But getting into the real reason why these processing fees, these treatment charges have come down, like I said, you've got that huge smelter, the Manyar smelter that Freeport are building. That's just one of many smelters coming online. So these are predominantly coming online in China, but the Indians are building a lot of smelting capacity as well. So that means there's a fall in fees essentially. And in China, it's getting pretty nasty. This week, 15 of the biggest smelters are getting together in Beijing for a bit of a chat around what they can do, because most of the analysts are saying they're not making enough, they're not breaking even at these prices. Now, granted, they will have some concentrate coming in on legacy contracts at prices higher, so that'll be helping them out. But at these prices, they're not making enough money to survive, so they're going to be talking about things like production cuts, about bringing forward planned maintenance and whatnot.
Yeah. And maybe some free money from the government.
Maybe. Well, a lot of these are state-owned.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So when you say, JD, that they're, battling to break even, is that directly linked to the copper price? Is it all percentages and everything? Higher copper price, they make more money?
There's a negative correlation between the treatment cost and the copper metal price. So the copper bulls will point toward the downward trend in the treatment costs as an indication that concentrate supply is tight, ultimately leading to higher copper metal prices. So there was a couple people in the world of Twitter talking about this, and from a sort of lens of it's very concerning about what's going on in the Chinese property market. And I think they've got the wrong take on this one. I'm not sticking up for the Chinese property sector. I don't know, I don't have great insight into what's going on there. But I think the read is that smelter supply is coming online. The smelters are hungry. It's very expensive to turn these things off. You need to keep them running. And they are now fighting for a diminishing pile of copper concentrate because of all the problems that the miners have had. So that's my take on what's going on. But let's keep our eyes peeled, because that being at a lowest level since 2010 is, it's an interesting sort of sign of what's going on in the red metal.
Super interesting. And looking at that chart, it's startling to just watch the nosedive of essentially these processing fees. I mean, that's wild to think about.
Absolutely. There's plenty of articles you can read just from October, December, November last year, and the price has been quoted are vastly different to what we're talking about now.
All right, I got a sin bin stock to talk about, guys.
Lake, let's do it.
So Lake Resources, oh gosh. When was the last time you saw a lithium company raising equity at a 39% discount? Mental, right?
Nothing comes to mind.
Yeah. That's what Street Talk are reporting. Lake Resources are raising out to bring in $20 million in the door at the moment. It's pretty horrendous. And why such a big discount? If you ask the question, I think there's two big reasons. Number one, the short interest in this stock was nowhere near the heights it used to be, only 3.9%, which is still high, mind you, but it's not like there was massive demand in the book from shorts wanting to close out. Number two, look at the cash flow statement in their last quarterly. Look at that cash outflow there, $18.4 million out the door to administrative and corporate costs.
In a quarter.
Bloody
hell.
And how many investors out there do you think?
14 the month before.
Mate, just like, how many investors out there do you think would look at that and think, I'll happily give these guys $20 million more at a tight discount? Like, you're dreaming, right? And granted, Lake came out last week and announced a cost-cutting plan, but, it's too little too late. And one thing worth noting, I thought, was remember how keen Lake was to name drop the big global investment banks that it had in its court to help it with project financing. Like, I'll flash up this announcement here, which in the top few lines mentions Citi, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and this was released in January this year. Well, none of those institutions were placing any Lake stock to any of their clients today. It's Barrenjoey, Canaccord, and Morgans.
Mate, I thought they were playing bingo with all the investment banks on the street there. In the Street Talk article, there was 6 I could count, quite a few. I've got something else to add on Lake Resources. I was flicking through the Battery Materials Review yearbook, which came out not too long ago, and there was a section on DLE in there, and Lake was mentioned. So I thought it would be worth sharing with the money miners. They spoke about the 3 most advanced DLE projects in the Western world. So you've got Vulcan's Zero Carbon Lithium, it's the project name. Lake's Kachi, Standard Lithium's Arkansas project in America that we've spoken about in the past. So they then went on to highlight the tendency for these early stage companies to understate CapEx. Now, no surprises for anyone who's followed the space that is a habit of these companies. So the guys at Battery Materials Review went on to discuss that the initial perception of DLE to develop brine projects has been that it would be low CapEx, low OpEx. And then as the studies, further studies come out, you go from scoping to PFS to DFS, or, similarly just with different names in North America, the costs shoot up both on a CapEx and OpEx perspective. So the capital intensity from the scoping study to the DFS across those projects jumped by 139%, while OpEx jumped 58% on average. So I thought it was just an interesting thing to tie into Lake while we were talking about them.
Really interesting, mate. Well, to wrap it up, guys, I want to have a yarn about after the market opened today, Calidus dropped their half-year accounts, and I don't want to bash the Calidus story to death, but it's worth looking at their accounts, given they're in a pretty fragile situation right now. I go straight to the trade and other payables section of the half-year accounts because that's the number that really matters to me. It grew by $10 million in the half year, just gone to reach $34 million now. I imagine a good chunk of that, would be to their mining contractor McMahon. And if you cast your mind back to April last year when Calidus raised $23, McMahon at the time agreed to convert $10 million of what it was owed at that point in time into Calidus equity. So I'm looking at the growth in trade payables there, and I'm wondering if McMahon might be in a similar situation in some way, shape, or form, and might be needing to convert some outstanding trade payables into Calidus equity again. I don't know if they held on to what they converted last time or not, but assume they did hold on to it at that price, then it'd only be worth $6.50 now, not the 10.5. So yeah, I mean, I think the Calidus are in a precarious situation, and they're kind of in need of a real change in events of some sort.
It's tough for the mining contractors as well. It really, undermines your business and a thin margin business when you don't bear the fruits of one of the contracts you put out there and convert it like this and then lose money. It can wipe away the margin you're earning elsewhere, given that this isn't one of their bigger contracts, but nevertheless, it's not a good look.
Nah, gold price going up will help, but they need to get that hedge book done.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so she's hanging on for dear life.
Good stuff, fellas.
Righto, thank you, boys. Jeez, we've got a rip snort of the Savi.
We do. I'm very excited.
2 absolute GCs entering the building. When are we going to put it out?
Maybe tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Oh, whenever.
Could be a bloody big one tomorrow. And these are possibly my 2 favourite people in the world coming to see us. Can't wait. Righto, thanks to the partners as always. VRIFY. Email granted. VRIFY. GetWet Solutions. Email Matt.hall to bloody get rid of dust on your mine site. Hey, DSI, Underground, SMEC Power and Technology. Oh, Christ, get a bloody SMEC VSD. Full stop. Hit up sales@smelectrical.com.au. Anytime exploration services, KCA site services, Brooks Airways, K-Drill.
Hoodoo, money miners.
Hoodoo.
The information contained in this episode of Money of Mine is of general nature only and does not take into account the objectives, financial situation or needs of any particular person. Before making any investment decision, you should consult with your financial advisor and consider how appropriate the advice is to your objectives, financial situation and needs.